Hey, have you ever wondered what goes on in a reserve study? Today we're going to go on one of the key steps. My name is Mark with Association Reserves, and we're going to do a site inspection. All right, so the first thing we're looking at is the sites and grounds. Lots of associations, communities, churches, which is like what we have today, have asphalt. Big component of an element of an association. We see things that a lot of people aren't even going to notice when they come on. When you see that light granule cover, I know that the seal is starting to fade away and they need a new seal. The kind of cracks that I see all through here indicate that this asphalt does have some age on it. Tight spider web type cracking or alligatoring is typically indicating that your asphalt really needs to be replaced. I don't see as much of that here. I see just a nice seal and some crack fills going on. So these folks have a few years before they have to totally replace their asphalt. The reason that we want to be tight on schedule and why having a good reserve study is important is because often once you start that alligator cracking and you ignore it, then we're talking about the substrate starts to get eroded away. If we get it early and we stick to the reserve study schedule, it's a 2-inch mill in replacement. If we wait, we're talking about a 4-inch mill, or we're talking about a substrate replacement, and those costs start tripling, doubling. It gets very expensive if you ignore your asphalt. Let's go walk around the outside of the building. Just basic things on the outside. Here in the Mid-Atlantic region, I see a ton of this brick. This brick is great. It lasts a very long time. It does need regular repairs. It does need regular masonry work. Again, if you ignore your reserve study and you just let that go away, you will start getting water inside of your building envelope, and that causes way more expensive damage than if you had just done the masonry work up front. Roofing is another big one we see. You might not be able to pick it up on the camera, but we see missing shingles here on the front entrance. We see lots of faded granule cover on the main surface of this building. All this stuff tells me that this roof is pretty close to being done, and we're gonna need to replace it soon. What's interesting here is that on the back end, they actually have a new roof. So the back end roof is newer. We're gonna break that out. Make sure you have a good custom reserve. Don't get a one-size-fits-all reserve study. Make sure you get a good custom reserve study from a good company that is able to break those things out in detail. These retaining walls are not always going to be on your reserve study. It's going to have to go on this one. You can see the cracking and sagging. I can almost fit my hand in here. If you can come at it from this side, you can see that this whole thing is sagging down. It's gonna start in the next few years becoming a safety concern. We've gotta get this repaired, gotta get this fixed. So it's just a square footage cost. We measure it, figure out how much it's gonna be to replace. You should be aware when you select a reserve study provider that not every reserve study provider does do pictures. Pictures really help tell story to your owners, or your stakeholders, or your taxpayers about what they're actually paying for and what their money is going into. It's really important for us to tell the story of what is actually on site. If you got a large community, not everybody walks around the whole community the entire time. They might not even know some of the components that they have even exist. So this should be obvious, but realistically, how often does anybody even come back here? I was talking to one of the leaders of this facility, and they've never even walked back to this side of the building and had no idea that this wall looks like this. This is totally deteriorated. This all has to get replaced. This is definitely becoming a significant safety hazard. We're talking about liability concerns, and this is generally destroyed. What you can also ask your reserve study provider for is live quotes. I will typically get a good live quote for something like this because it needs to happen now, and we are definitely in a hurry to get this fixed. Really, really want you guys not to wait until your components start to look like this before you get a reserve study. here. All right, so what we have here are the exterior AC units. It's a little loud, so I'll speak up. These are all different ages, all kind of installed at different times. One thing that, maybe your maintenance man won't be aware of as he's talking about how to replace these things is because of the angle of this building, we actually need a crane to get a new AC unit in here. So the cost of the crane is actually needs to go in there. We see that a lot with condos in more metro areas like Richmond, Baltimore, or DC, or buildings that are backed up in alleys. So renting a crane for the day that you need to install this kind of thing is going to drastically increase your price. If you just looked up what one of these units is online, your price is going to be off because you're not actually including the extra labor that's required to do that thing. Let's go inside and take a look at some of the things that you might find inside a building like this. So offices and classrooms, pretty common. This classroom here inside this church is what you see in things like even a condo association will have a common area with classrooms or boardrooms or meeting rooms. All this stuff is on a timeline. A lot of this stuff is subjective, so it's kind of up to the owners how they want to operate this stuff. There is some wiggle room that we can get and still be within the National Reserve Study standards about replacement timelines for the furniture. In general, we're interested in protecting your community's value and protecting the ability of your community to keep a high standard, which ultimately keeps that value for your stakeholders and your unit owners. Go through here. So what I'll do here is I'm going to take measurements of the room just so I can get dimensions of carpeting. You got your drop ceiling, you got painting, you got your walls. So obviously in a space like this, you have a lot of interesting components. You've got audio-visual equipment that's got to be replaced. You've got customized lighting that's got to get replaced. All this painting, especially with these very high ceilings, is going to get expensive. All these chairs at some point are going to need to be replaced. The windows, the HVAC that comes through here. You have a Baptistry pool back there that's on its own water heater. All that stuff has to get looked at, reviewed, and noted. And once you do the first full reserve study, it can be a little bit expensive, but once all that data is in and you keep updating your study, you can keep that data and move it forward and keep moving those costs forward. And once you get started, it's much easier to keep it going than it is to first get off the ground. But it's totally worth it to get the first one, spend the money on the first one, and then just keep that thing updated, and your data only gets more and more accurate. So I'm counting lights, I'm counting fixtures, the windows we're gonna measure when we take some pictures outside. All that stuff needs to get included in your reserve study because all of it is eventually going to get replaced. Most people don't think about it. That's why you need to get a reserve study provider, because that person's gonna think about it. This is actually my second time out here. Last time I was here, I started building the model. So we create a model of our building. This is how we get all your window counts, This is how we measure your masonry. This is how we measure your roofing. Make sure that this is accurate. Make sure that this is as pinpointed as possible. We're always looking for new ways to update your technology. If you haven't done a full building measurement in the last, I would say 5 to 10 years, it might be worth doing it again because the technology has really caught up and really improved on your measurements. So if you have old measurements, it might be worth engaging a whole full reserve study just to get new data and new stuff in. And make sure you're looking for a company that's technology forward, that's using the latest stuff and not using just hand measurements for everything that they do, because people make errors and machines are less likely to make those errors. I hope you've enjoyed walking through a site visit. This is the beginning of a reserve study. I've got a lot of work to do on the back end. Hey, take 5 minutes. Go to reservestudy.com, request a proposal. Let's get your present less stressful and your future more secure.